can't.
You're live.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the second edition of the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. We are the Alice Hangover. I'm your boy, Sean Lugo, sitting here with DJ Crafty, Dustin Jones, and the Power Twins, Kyle and Brando. How you guys doing today, boys?
Doing all right, man.
Sean, how about you?
Awesome. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to run through some division winners, find out what our picks are, and we'll revisit these maybe somewhere middle of the year, see how we're all doing, see if our picks are holding up and how we're holding weight here. A couple of things before we get into the divisions. The Bears did name their captains this week. Just wanted to touch on that really quick. Boys.
Hey, real quick, Sean. Can we shout out Bearski for that awesome intro video?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Thanks, Bearski.
Thank you, Bearski.
Video. We'll be using that every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate the hard work, Paul.
We also got the Windy City Productions, who put together a fantastic Bears hype video. We're going to show you guys that a little bit later. You guys are going to love it, so stay tuned for that right after we give our division predictions. And getting into our Chicago Bears captains, they named Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Kevin Byard, Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson, and Mercedes Lewis. You boys all okay with that?
I thought Mercedes Lewis was weird. I get like you said before we got on here, he's a veteran presence, but like they're just trying to, appease him for that. And he probably has the locker room's ear, so it makes sense. But I mean, just in terms of, performance, I was a little weirded out by that. I love that the two linebackers got the captain tag, and Byard too. So Byard and Johnson. So they got multiple levels of the defense there with Sweat. So, I mean, everybody knows who they're accountable to on that defense, which is really cool. I love these linebackers this year. I think they're both going to have big years. So it was cool to see that.
Brando?
I don't know. I'm okay with whoever the Bears named captain. There's so much inner work with those decisions, stuff that fans would never really be able to dictate on why those decisions are made. Caleb's the quarterback, that. I believe Edwards is the guy is it Edwards or Edmonds who's got the mic in his helmet?
Yeah.
Byard surprised me a little bit because he's newer, but he is already the veteran on that secondary. So, I mean, the captain thing is not something I think too much about. It's really just who's taking calls.
Oh. Kyle?
For me, it was pretty predictable, pretty par for the course. I think we all kind of could have predicted who the captains were going to be this year. I agree with Dustin. The one that does throw me off a little bit is Mercedes Lewis, but they probably just did that because of his veteran presence. And I'm going to guess, I don't want to speculate, and obviously the guy's a dinosaur, but I'm going to guess this is probably going to be his last year. So maybe just like kind of a send off for him, a little bonus for him.
Good veteran leadership. I like all the captains. I love this defense. I love this team. So let's flip the script here. And you guys want to start going through one of the tougher divisions in football, maybe the AFC East? How do you guys feel about that?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna throw my picks down at the bottom. I got Baltimore at 12-5, the Bengals 11-6, Cleveland 11-6, and Pittsburgh at 7-10. This was a really, really hard division for me to pick because these three teams are really, really good. And as we touched on a little bit before the show, Dustin, Pittsburgh could be a team that winds up being above 500 and surprising some people here. I just thought Baltimore's got some really tough games, at Kansas City, Dallas, Cleveland, Houston, at home versus Philly, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Buffalo. Not very easy. Cincinnati schedule's a little bit easier at Kansas City, Dallas.
We're talking AFC North here, by the way, guys, not AFC East.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So this was, again, very, very hard division for me to pick, but I think it's Baltimore's time. I think they're well-established veteran leadership. I love Harbaugh. I love their makeup. I know Cincinnati is going to be tough, but I'm going to stick with Baltimore, and I got a little bit more for Baltimore a little bit later on. Where are you at in this division, Kyle?
I mean, honestly, it sounds a little crazy, but I'm actually going to take Cincinnati this year. I'm going to take them winning the division. I mean, I think, first of all, Cincinnati has one of the most powerful offenses in the NFL if they can all stay healthy. And obviously, if Jamar Chase gets paid, because right now we really don't know what's going to happen there. But I think if T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow are all healthy, that's one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL. I like the Ravens a lot. I think the Ravens are the obvious pick. I think the Ravens have the best defense in the NFC North. I just think that the Ravens are one major injury away from being an average team. If they lost Lamar Jackson, say Flowers, if they lost Mark Andrews, that would be a huge hit for them. They would probably be more average offense. But I think we're all pretty close. I think they're maybe even the same record with the Bengals taking the tiebreaker or the Bengals getting one more win than the Ravens. And then after that, I think we're all general consensus. It's going to be the Browns. What do you think?
Justin?
I mean, I don't know about general consensus. I got the Browns as the worst team this year. Now, it's not like that's not like they're going to be awful. I think they're going to be a good team. It's a tough division. I got the Browns at 9-8 with the worst record. I mean, I went through and I looked at all those schedules and picked out my records. And it's not surprising that you picked Cincy to me, because I picked Cincy to win that division too. I got them at 11-6. I got the Ravens at 10-7. Those teams are going to beat the hell out of each other all season, guys, and it's going to be a battle of attrition out of the AFC North. And when you mention the Bengals, you also got to mention Chase Brown in that offense. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. And they just drafted Jermaine Burton, who's going to be a guy who takes the top off of defense for this team. So they've added some, and also they drafted Amarius Mims.
Justin, just out of curiosity, where do you have the Steelers' overall record?
I got the Steelers at 10-7. I got Ravens 10-7, Steelers 10-7, Bengals 11-6, Browns 9-8. It's gonna be a tight ass division. It's gonna come down to the last week, like usual, on who wins that division. And I got the Steelers missing the playoffs at 10-7, unfortunately for them.
That would be Mike Tomlin's first time, right?
First time what?
Missing the playoffs.
I don't know if it's the first. It'll be his first. No, he hasn't had a losing record. I think they have missed the playoffs. But maybe I'm wrong about that. But that I don't see him having a losing record again this year. So he's going to keep that streak going for sure. He's going to maintain his 500 or above.
He has somehow quietly been one of the best coaches in the NFL for the last.
He's my favorite coach in the NFL. And then awesome. Bearski brings this up, guys, about the Bengals, because you have to talk about this if you're going to talk. I understand the risk with Joe Burrow's wrist with the wordplay there, because that injury is unprecedented at that quarterback position. And that's the scariest thing, but I'm not gonna count on the injury being an issue this year. I think he's gonna be all right, and if he is, that team is gonna run away with a lot of games.
Brandon?
Oh yeah, this is probably the toughest division for me, honestly, and I got to say that because I agree with you guys. The Bengals are going to come in a lot hotter, obviously, with Joe Burrow at full health if he stays healthy all season. The based on the 2023 schedule, or based on 2023 standings, the three teams in the NFL with the hardest strength of schedule, based on last year's standings, are the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers at 1, 2, 3. And the Bengals don't fall until 16th hardest schedule. Browns, Ravens, Steelers, 1, 2, 3. I do believe that the Ravens win this division and a tiebreaker with the Bengals, because the Ravens defense last year was the second defense, I believe, in NFL history to lead the league in points, takeaways, and sacks. I don't see them regressing and really any of those statistics, to be honest. Still a very strong defense. They did lose Patrick Queen. That's going to be a big deal, but to the Steelers too. But I like this. I like the Ravens. I like the Ravens, and I like the Bengals with a split, a tie in this division. It's going to come down to a tiebreaker. And I also agree with you guys that I personally think the Browns have the worst record in the division as well.
Brando, that's why I exactly took the Ravens. Defense wins championships, and I think they got the best defense in this division.
The Steelers, you did mention the Steelers, though, and they added Queen, and they drafted Peyton Wilson. I mean,
Joey Porter's 1 year better.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, there's just so much talent in that division, guys.
Do we all agree that that's probably the most competitive division in football?
It's going to be.
Games are so fun, man.
It's going to be such a fun season, yeah.
Don and I talked about this on the show a while back. That all the divisions kind of match up if you look at them. The AFC and NFC North are kind of both the black and blue division. The NFC and AFC West are kind of the finesse, high-powered offense.
Weather.
The AFC and NFC South were irrelevant for years.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
entire AFC North is going to play good football in the latter half of the season when the weather turns crap.
Oh yeah,
they're accustomed to it, you know.
that's gonna be Derrick Henry time, ground and pound, baby.
Yeah, that's another reason to like the Ravens, man. They had listen, guys like us had worked filled in and did an okay job, but it's a whole different dynamic with a running back that can actually carry the load.
Oh. All right, gentlemen. Now we're actually going to move on to the real AFC East, and hit up. I have the Jets winning that division at 12-5, Miami 10-7, Buffalo 9-8, New England 2-15. Now, my friends, it's been a 22-year drought for the Jets winning the NFC East. Last year, they had zero quarterback play. They were third in total defense, second in passing defense. They were seventh in red zone defense, 12th in scoring defense, and I really think being off the field more with a better offense is going to really elevate that team. I know a lot of people are high on Buffalo. I think we've all talked about this a little bit, but I do believe Josh Allen is a guy who can get this team a bunch of victories on his own with his talent. I think the defense is going to take a step back there. And that's just where I'm at. I really like the Jets, and I'm going to be taking the Jets to ride for a while. Brando, who do you got in the NFC East or AFC East? Excuse me.
I like Buffalo winning the division. After Joe Brady took over the offense, he kind of phased Stephon Diggs out, relied heavily on James Cook, and it clearly worked. Even Josh Allen's turnovers for the first time in his career greatly dropped. So I do like the Bills coming in strong the way they finished last year. I do think they win the division, and I actually have the Jets in second. I have the Dolphins regressing a little bit. I have the Dolphins finishing third in this division, and then it goes without saying, guys, the Patriots are probably the worst team in the NFL. I think the Vegas line has the Patriots finish with the worst record in the NFL. I like the Buffalo Bills, but by a very small margin. Maybe winning maybe at 1 or 2 games ahead of the Jets. I do like that Jets team, Sean. Me and you have agreed on this. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's quite finished yet. He's not going to be the MVP player we watched when he was in the Packers, but he's still going to. Garrett Wilson's a great player. Mike Williams, if he's healthy, is a great player. I like the Jets finishing second. The Dolphins' defense worries me. That's where I see the Dolphins declining, is on the defensive side of the football. They lost some pretty important pieces, and I know the Dolphins were high. I think they were third in the league last year in sacks with 53. They're obviously going to lose some of that production after, I think, Christian Wilkins' departure to Oakland. So I like this going Buffalo, New York, Miami, and then obviously New England best. Kyle, what do you think?
I actually agree with Sean on this one. I think this is kind of going to be Aaron Rodgers' last hurrah. I have the Jets winning this division. I think the Jets are actually a very good team. They won 7 games last year with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL. They had a top 10 ranked defense. I think that defense is going to continue to be somewhere around 6, 7, 8. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a really good season. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Mike Williams. I think Allen Lazard is going to be better than people think as a number 3. I think the Jets are probably the most dangerous team in this division. I think the Bills will probably finish in second, but for the Bills and Dolphins, for me, it's kind of a toss-up. I really don't know what to expect from the Dolphins defense. They do still have some playmakers there, but like you guys said, they lost Christian Wilkins, and he's probably one of the best players in the NFL. I don't think, for me personally, the Patriots are even worth talking about. I think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL, probably by a couple games. I think they'll end up getting the first pick in the NFL draft. But like I said, I think the Jets finish first, and then the Bills and the Dolphins. As long as Josh Allen is on the Bills, that team's going to win games. I can't tell you how many. They have a very tough schedule this year, and they got rid of both Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, so it's hard to predict what's going to happen there. They need guys like Curtis Samuel and Keon Coleman to step in and learn the offense quick. But for me, it's the Jets all day.
Yeah, guys, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, please. We appreciate y'all joining us and spending your Labor Day with us. Happy Labor Day, by the way. We didn't even say that. Happy Labor Day to everybody. It's been a good day. I reluctantly picked the Jets. I don't like Robert Saleh. I don't like Aaron Rodgers at his age with getting injured as the way he did last year. But if he stays healthy and Mike Williams stays healthy and all these guys stay healthy, because they have some question marks with that, there's a lot of ifs with the Jets, but if it goes well, yeah, I got them winning the division at 11-6. But I got it as a toss-up with them in Buffalo. I could see Buffalo taking this division too. I got Buffalo at 10-7. Like Kyle's saying, I mean, if you got Josh Allen on your team, it's hard for me to not pencil you in for 10 wins. Hard. I mean, with the Dolphins, I got them at 7-10. I don't see them repeating a playoff appearance. I don't see them even really competing for it. I think they're going to take a step back. Obviously, you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. Their offense is spectacular, and I really do like Mike McDaniel a lot. But the defense is a concern, you know, that some big losses there. And it's just, again, it's a tough division if you're going against the Jets and Buffalo every – you know, 2 times you got to play both those teams. I mean, I don't see them splitting in the division. I see them being 2-4 in their division, guys. So, and the Patriots are the Patriots, guys. They're gonna have a tough season. It's gonna be hard. It'll be interesting to see if Drake May performs well. I don't expect him to, but you know, I'd be pleasantly surprised if he does. So, I mean, this division is probably the least interesting division of all the divisions to me. I honestly can't stand the Jets. I can't stand Buffalo. And I don't like the Patriots, and I've never been a Dolphin. I just really, this division is to me. But the Jets will win it. The Jets will win it, I think.
Is there any scenario in any of your guys' minds where the Patriots don't win a game this year?
No. It's possible. It's possible.
I want to ask you guys a question. Other than Michael Penix, who's clearly going to sit. He was drafted to sit behind Kirk Cousins. Drake May was the only first-round quarterback that wasn't named a starter. And I don't see, with the way this Patriots season's projected to go, I don't see why you don't get Drake May. I mean, he's probably going to replace Brissett, but why not get him in now and just let this kid get some experience under his belt before this team actually starts to build something up? I know there's the fear that if he doesn't have the talent around him, it could hurt his confidence and all that, but Drake May was listed as the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft by almost every major source.
It's not just, guys, well, Brandon, it's not just the talent around him and hurting his confidence. It's actually hurting his body. That offensive line is ass, guys. I don't know. They don't want to put him out there in a position where he gets his head taken off.
In all honesty, man, that's playing scared, dude. He won the job in the preseason. He was their pick. He should be the starting quarterback of the Patriots.
Well, I mean,
they paid Jacoby Brissett a lot of money to be that bridge quarterback. They knew what they were doing. That's their plan from the beginning.
Gerard Mayo came out and said that the reason that they decided to stick with Jacoby Brissett to start the season is because they feel like he gives them a better chance to win with his experience in the NFL right now. Now, obviously, I think we all agree that that's probably going to change around week 4, 5, 6 when they're 0-4 or 0-5 or 1-5.
He's going to play.
Then they'll try to make a change to spark the team, which will probably most likely be the most obvious scenario, which would be Drake May start. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm not a huge fan of Drake May. I wasn't a big fan of Drake May coming out of the draft. No. I think that was the worst quarterback drafted in the first round. And I think ultimately that team is going to be bad no matter who's starting there. Like Dustin said, just forget about the fact that there's not a lot of skilled players there. Their offensive line is absolutely atrocious. It might be the worst offensive line in football. And then you have Jacoby Brissett, who's been an NFL journeyman for how long now? 10 years, been on 50 different teams. And you have Drake May, who has no experience in the NFL. It's just not a good situation to be in. I think the reason they're doing what they're doing is because they want to get at least a couple wins. I mean, it would not be a good look for Gerard Mayo to come into his first season and go 0-17.
Here, I can say this, and I just want to get your guys' opinion on where a win could come for New England. They open up at Cincinnati, home against Seattle, at the Jets, at the Niners, home against Miami, home against Houston, at Jacksonville, at the Jets.
I got them home against Miami as one of their 2 wins that I have. I got them at 2-15.
I like them against Seattle. That'll be a football game, I think.
You think? Okay.
I don't see that. Not at Seattle, but home against Miami.
They're home against Seattle. They're home against
Seattle. Yeah.
Dustin, you said you have Miami going 2-4 in the division, right? So what's the 2 wins?
The 2 wins for Miami?
Yeah.
In the division, yeah.
In the division.
Well, they're going. I got them 1 against Buffalo and 1 against the Patriots.
I was going to say they play Buffalo. They play Buffalo hard every year, man. Miami Buffalo is always a fun game to watch.
Yeah, and Miami they have the advantage, you know. So I mean, that's where I got them getting their 2 wins.
All right, let's move it on. I think we're all set there. We got the AFC South jumping off. I got the obvious pick: Houston, Jacksonville 10-7, and then Tennessee and the Colts 7-10, 6-11, respectively. Honestly, guys, I just went with this. I think Houston is a majorly talented team, going to take some steps forward. I think their defense is going to take some steps forward. I have them at 6 losses because they do have some really, really tough games on the schedule. And it's going to be, CJ Stroud, can he beat these upper echelon teams? And we're going to find out pretty quickly. But I still like them, in this. Again, I don't like this division at all. I don't like anything about Indy. Indy's defense did not improve in the offseason. They were one of the worst statistically against the pass, against the run. They did nothing to bulk that up. The Titans, they're starting Will Levis. We'll get a good look at them in about 6 days from now, see what they're all about. But the best of this bunch is Houston. That's where I'm rolling. I got Jacksonville making the playoffs as well. I think they could take a step forward this year. What do you think, DJ Crafty?
First thing that stood out to me with what you were just saying, Sean, is how much I disagree with you on the Tennessee Titans. I think that team is going to be awful. I'm not a big fan of the moves they made. I'm even less of a fan of their quarterback. I don't like Calvin Ridley either. I think he's an overrated receiver that doesn't catch anywhere near the amount of catches he should make in terms of the targets he gets. And the fact that they changed coaches the way they did, they set themselves up for failure. I don't see how they're better off without Vrabel now than they were. It's Callahan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is their coach.
Yeah.
I don't see him being successful in the NFL. I think they made a poor decision in firing Vrabel, and I think that's going to bite him in the ass this year. And I got him at 3-14, man. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL in my mind. The Jags, I had at 10-7, very similar to you right there. Yeah, I had them at 10. I see the AFC in general, just to say this, being very competitive. There's going to be some good teams that don't make the playoffs this year, and that's going to be tough on them. But it's going to be fun for us as fans watching. Colts 6-11. I got that as well. We've all talked about Anthony Richardson, how we feel about him. My biggest concern with him is his health, obviously, him being able to stay healthy and stay on the field. But even if he does, I don't know if that translates to wins for the Colts. I think this is still enough. They have a great coach. I know, Brandon, you think that too. Steichen is a really good coach. I like him. So I think they're in the process of building something. They're going to need to wait another year for that. Houston, I had a 10-7. The 4th seed in the AFC, when it's all said and done, they're going to win that division. I don't see how they don't. CJ Stroud's going to take a big step forward this year, and I hope so, because I got him on one of my fantasy teams that we just drafted today. So, I like Houston. I like the moves that they made. I think they're the clear-cut favorite, but I would not be surprised, guys. I've been kind of dogging the Jags all offseason, but the more I keep looking at their schedule and the more I keep thinking about it, I don't see how they don't win 10 games. And it could turn into 11 if one game flips one way or the other and they take that division. So Houston needs to watch out for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Really, really quick on that Titans. I basically went off the strength of their defense because they were the number 1 red zone and they were top 15 in every category last year. That's kind of why I gave them some extra wins, because defense can win you games, and when teams can't get it in the end zone, generally you stand up.
Sure. They're definitely not going to get it in the end zone. So let's hope for
what do you got over here, Kyle?
Actually, I agree with you both of you guys a little bit. I agree. I don't think Tennessee's as bad as Dustin thinks they are. That's for me personally. I do have the same rankings as Dustin. I think that ultimately the Texans will win the division. I got them at 11-7. 11-6. I think that the Jaguars will be the second in that division, followed by the Colts and then the Titans. But I don't think the Colts and Titans will be off by very many games. I think they're both around 5, 6, 7 win teams, and it just depends on how the ball. To talk about the Jaguars, I don't know if when we were doing our schedule prediction for the Chicago Bears, the Jaguars was one of those trap games I was talking about on their schedule, man. Yeah. I think that Jaguars team got better. Not only do I think they got better, but I think this is probably going to be Trevor Lawrence's best season as a professional in the NFL. I think that the Jaguars all around are actually a better team than people are giving them credit for. They've got some studs on defense. We all know Josh Allen is. We know Walker is. They added a couple good receivers in the offseason. I think Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne are both going to have their best seasons this year. I don't think their coaching staff is as bad as it already gives. I think they're better than people could give them credit for. I think the only team in that division that, for me personally, that isn't really going to be competitive this year is the Titans. And like I said, I think they win more than 3 games. I just think they're a year behind. I think they actually made some pretty good moves in the offseason. I actually like this receiving core with Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd. I think it's much better than last year. I also like Tajay Spears in the backfield. I think he's going to have a good season. I just think they're 1 year behind. And like Dustin said, you got a pretty young team with a young quarterback, and then you change the coach. That always kind of puts a couple steps back, man. We've seen that in Chicago 100 times, right, guys? Every time a quarterback seems to be comfortable in Chicago, they change the offensive coordinator and they take a step back. I think you're going to see a lot of that in Tennessee, but I think we all pretty much agree on this division. What do you think, Brandon?
Will Levis is going to to be ass, guys. I just got to say that. No Will Levis stock for me.
I'm also not a fan of Anthony Richardson, so
for sure.
Go ahead, Brando.
I disagree slightly. I like the Texans winning the division. I actually have the Colts finishing second, the Jaguars third. I think the Jaguars are probably the worst coach team in the NFL. I think Doug Peterson has the possibility of being fired in the season. I didn't like his defensive coordinator hire either. I also, other than the Javon Foster 4th round pick, who's going to play guard, not tackle, this offensive line on Jacksonville has improved in no way, shape, or form.
They did not improve it at all. You're right.
They have really good skill players now with guys Ingram, Kirk, Etienne, and now they've added Brian Thomas. But I think the Colts offense is just in line to be one step better than they were last year. If Richardson does stay healthy, you've got Downs. They added Mitchell. You've still got Pittman there. They've got a quality offense. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is due for a pretty big year as well. I think the Colts, just strictly on coaching, finish at least 1 or 2 games higher than the Jaguars do. But I think outside of the Texans, guys, none of these teams pose a real threat to the playoffs. I really don't. I think that the Texans are the only team that have a chance of making the playoffs out of this division.
Everybody kind of forgets that the Colts were 1 game away from being in the playoffs last year.
really well coached.
That was with Gardner Minshew. I don't have any faith in Anthony Richardson. He couldn't throw.
I like Joe Flacco stepping in if there's a Richardson.
They got Joe Flacco as a backup. I like that, Brandon. I like that with the Colts coming in second. That's an intriguing one, and they were in second in that division last year. So
but Dustin, to your point, how quickly people forget this Jacksonville Jaguars team, which was probably a worse team at the time, was almost made the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So I think it all depends on Trevor Lawrence, guys. And I think
my faith in the Colts is really just because of how little faith I have in Doug Peterson as a head coach of any team in the NFL. That's where it falls, to be honest with you. I think
that team gave up on him last year.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars fall flat on their face. That's what I think happens with the Jaguars this year.
So you got them last in the division, then?
No, I think the Titans are a talentless roster, but I think that you replace Derrick Henry with Tony Pollard. Need I say more? But I think Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. That's the only hope I'm holding on to for this Jacksonville team. But it's not enough to get them in the playoffs, and I don't think it's even enough to get them 2 wins over the Colts in the division. And I think between those 2 teams, the Colts and the Jaguars, it's probably going to come down to their interdivision play. I really believe that.
I think you're selling Tajay Spears a little short, dude.
Yeah.
Are the Titans going to use him the way that they need to? I am high on Spears, but if they put Howard out there,
it's a 50-50 split. And if it's truly a 50-50 split, I think Tajay Spears is going to shine and pull away from Tony Brown.
It needs to become a 70-30 split.
Yeah. Regardless, though, we still all have the Titans as the last team in that division.
I have them in third. I have the Colts in last. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Anthony Richardson.
There's a lot of pieces missing in Tennessee to me. And like Dustin said, you scrapped your coaching staff, and he's not coming in and taking over a real quality roster, and he's taking over a roster with a quarterback who's going to start for his first full season, so it's never good either.
Yeah, Brennan, you could say that about either team, right? The Titans and Colts, you can say the Colts have a good offense, but look at their defense. I just don't. I think the same points you make about the Titans can be made about the Colts, but like we said, guys, we're going to find out, right?
Well, I think this division that's going to be heavily based on coaching, man. I think Shane Steichen is one of the best coaches in the NFL.
I don't disagree with that.
I like Steichen a lot.
I'm
you can give the best carpenter in the world a screwdriver, but you can't ask him to build a house with it. You need more tools. Man.
I agree. So we wrapped up the NFC or AFC. Do we want to make it through and go?
We
all
did
the way
not
to-
wrap up the AFC. We got the AFC West still.
Oh, Nikes! You're
I know,
right.
I know why, Sean. I know why you skipped that division because it's not going to be a very long conversation.
It's not going to be very long. I got the Chiefs.
I don't know. I got something for you guys.
I got the
So
Chiefs at 12-5, Vegas at 9-8, Denver 6-11, and the Chargers at 6-11 as well. Coming in, I mean, obviously, I don't got to say anything about the Chiefs outside of the fact I really do think the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has got his best weapons around him that he's had in quite some time. I think he's going to have some really good games. Also has a really, really, really tough schedule coming in here. So I know we were talking about maybe 11-4, but they have 8 really tough games on this schedule. If they split that and drop one in the division, I could see them being at 5. I mean, they do travel. They do travel to hold on, I wrote this down. They traveled to Atlanta, to the Niners, to the Bills, and to Cleveland, and they're at home against Baltimore, Cincinnati, Houston. And that Houston matchup is December 21st. So that could be a really key matchup in the AFC as far as positioning, you know, if the Chiefs aren't rolling through their tough schedule that they have here. So that's Ron Metcalf. Where are you rolling out with this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the general consensus for all of us is the Chiefs are the number 1 team in the NFL, right? Not just the AFC, but probably the NFL. And I think until Patrick Mahomes shows that for some reason he's lost a step or he's struggling, I don't think that changes. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL. He's probably the best player in American sports. He's probably going to go down as one of the top 3 quarterbacks of all time. The Chiefs are in a division that's pretty weak, if you ask me. I mean, I know that some people like the Chargers. I actually do like the Chargers team. I like their quarterback. I like Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers are in a good position, but I think they're still a year behind. I think the Chargers are kind of in the middle of I don't want to say call it a rebuild, but I guess you'd say a retool now that Jim Harbaugh's here and he's going to start bringing in his guys and get rid of some of the guys who are on this roster. Ultimately, for me, guys, it's the Chiefs number 1, the Chargers number 2, Broncos number 3, Raiders in last, and I don't think it's going to be very close. I think the Chiefs will run away with that division by week 9, 10, and nobody will be able to catch them. Dustin?
Well, I'll just throw this out there because I got the Chargers at 10-7 and in the playoffs. I do have the Chiefs with the best record in football, 13-4. It's hard, like you said, to pick against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and then as Sean said, the weapons he has are the best he's had since they traded away Tyreek Hill, if they stay healthy. So the Chiefs, we all know, are going to be at the top of this division. I got the Chargers as a playoff team. And because Jim Harbaugh is a guy who, wherever he goes, he gets immediate success. He finds it. He has an identity that he establishes for his team right out the gate. He establishes it in practice that they will run the ball and they will beat the hell out of you. That's what they're going to do. He's going to get these guys to play defense. And the fact that Justin Herbert is the best quarterback. I mean, he had Andrew Luck, right, at Stanford. But Justin Herbert is the best NFL quarterback this guy has had, and might be the best quarterback in general that he's coached. So you're talking about not necessarily relying on the throw, but when you need the big one to win the game, you have Justin Herbert to do that. Signing Gus Edwards, I think a lot of people think he's over the hill, but I could see him really performing well in that offense, especially the fact that they drafted Joe Alt to anchor that offensive line. They drafted towards their identity. And I know you like Ladd McConkey a lot, Sean. I'm very high on him as well. He's going to shine in that offense with Herbert. I could see the Chargers surprising a lot of people this year and getting some immediate success because that's what Jim Harbaugh does. And I'm a big fan of his, and I'm a big believer in him. So I got the Raiders, the worst team in the division, one of the worst teams in football, at 4-13. I don't see them performing very well this season. I don't know that Pierce is the guy for that job. And I don't know that Devontae Adams wants to be there. Like, there's so many weird things going on with that team. I don't have faith in them.
Do you like Pierce?
I felt like they played hard for him towards the end of that year, but it's like that's an interim thing. It's a completely different thing. Being the guy, knowing you're the guy, and that team knowing you're the guy. And we'll see if he establishes an identity for that team. Like I'm talking about Harbaugh establishing identity, because that's what the Raiders are missing, guys. The Raiders used to be a team. We're going to draft the biggest guys. We're going to draft the fastest guys. We're going to draft the strongest guys, and we're going to kick your ass. That's what the Al Davis Raiders were all about, So like they've lost that. So maybe they're hoping Pierce is going to help them find that. I don't think that happens this year. If it happens, good on them. But I don't see them being better than the Broncos. I got the Broncos at 6-11.
Dustin, really quick, I
What?
just curious because you have the Chargers in second place at the 28th ranked defense, and they did nothing this offseason to improve that defense. So, and they're going to run the ball with limited weapons around Josh. I'm not a believer in Josh Palmer. I've talked about this before. He is established himself in the NFL to be what he is, and he's not a number one, and he's going in as a number one. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. I mean, what's really around him?
Let me tell you, because the Chargers were the third most passing team in the NFL last year. They passed to where they couldn't control a game. Jim Harbaugh, if you're running the ball, that makes life easier on your defense. Your defense is not turning around and coming back on the field so quickly. They're going to have more time to rest. They're going to get leads and be able to go after the quarterback. They still have Khalil Mack and they still have Joey Bosa.
Yeah, Joey Bosa is healthy.
And they still have Derwin James, who's a hell of a safety that people have kind of forgotten about. They have some pieces. They have enough pieces to where I think just by changing your identity and your strategy and having that coach, that guy, the who has it better than us guy, world of difference. Their head coach last year was a lame duck and everybody knew it. He couldn't win a game when it was on the line. If you go back and look at the games that they lost by one score because of Staley's terrible decision making, you could see a playoff team out of the Chargers in multiple years in a row. So I mean, like that's I think that's the biggest difference. Just Harbaugh flipping.
I don't believe they've given up on Quentin Johnson. And, I think they actually think that Brennan Rice is that they draft. I know it's a 7th round pick and a lot of people don't like him, but I think they think he'd be able to stretch the field for them as well. I like
Palmer a lot too. I like Palmer this year a lot.
I don't hate the Chargers. I actually like the Chargers team. I just think, like I said, they're 1 year behind. I think it was a tough situation for Jim Harbaugh to walk in and he kind of had to reel to a little bit. They got rid of their, I think they have salary cap issues as well, don't they? Just like Buffalo. I think they're
for sure. They do. But that's why they weren't able to make a lot of moves this year.
Yeah.
But Harbaugh is really good at making something out of nothing.
Joey Bosa's health is going to be very important to that team because he's good against the run too. And remember, the Chargers couldn't stop the run last year.
But yeah, Quentin Johnston, I expect him to erase that bust label this year.
Sucks.
We'll see, man. We'll see. He might be better than Deontay Johnson this year. We'll see.
We could place a nice little wager on that one. I'll take Deontay Johnson over Quentin Johnson all day long.
I'll bet you.
Kyle, who did you have in this division? Did you already go give your picks?
Yeah, Kyle did. Yes, we're on Brandon.
Who you got in this division?
Obviously the Chiefs.
I
think they improved. I think they finished with the number 1 defense in the NFL. I also think that with the addition of Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, who's going to miss a little bit of time, it looks like, but the offense got better. I think they won 12 games this year instead of 11 last year. I do have the Broncos finishing as the second team in this division. The Broncos went 0-3 to start the season last year. They lost the game and allowed 73 points. After that point, for the last 14 games of the season, they went 8-6. In the last 4 games of the season, they went 1-3. But we got to remember, guys, that's because they benched a quarterback who was playing well enough to win, but they didn't want to injure him because they knew they needed that asset to trade. So I do believe that Sean Payton's going to do what he does. He's going to get the best out of Bo Nix. I like Cortland Sutton. He's one of my favorite receivers. He's all grit. I do think the Broncos finished second in this division. I don't call them a playoff team. I do think they finished second. I like the Chargers. I love Harbaugh. I love Kimani Vitale, the running back drafted out of Troy. He'll probably end up being the running back. I agree with Dustin. They're going to rely heavy on the run, so you're going to see all 3 of those guys. Well, until Dobbins gets injured, then you'll see 2 of those guys. But obviously I have the Raiders finishing last in the division. I do like the Broncos to finish ahead of the Chargers. I only like the Chiefs in this division to make the playoffs.
Just to be fair on the Vegas team here, they were a top 15 defense last year, and if Gardner Minshew got Indy, one of the bottom-ranked defenses, almost 1 game out of the playoffs. Why can't he do this in Las Vegas with better weapons around him?
Coaching.
He's not a terrible quarterback.
Yeah, coaching.
You guys don't believe in Alex Pierce, but Alex Pierce actually turned this team around and won in Kansas City.
Antonio Pierce, yeah.
So,
we don't believe in Antonio Pierce. No.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. The reason I asked Dustin what he thinks about Pierce is because for me that is one of the biggest question marks in the NFL. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. Like you guys said, He had them playing very hard, and they did beat the Chiefs last year. And
I think though,
was a huge
if
win.
Sean Payton doesn't stronghold the Broncos into benching, I mean, by telling them he's done with Russell, which he was, and
Well,
they're
dude, that
forced to
was
bench him because you got to keep him healthy.
We got
I
to
think
get
it's-
through the
I
whole
think it's-
NFC still.
I think instead of 8-6, they probably finished 9-5, maybe even 10-4 over the last 14 games.
Yeah, it's
That's fair
possible. I
enough.
agree.
All right, we're gonna move it on along here. We're gonna get to the NFC West and kind of put a little speed up onto this thing here. This is my best team in the league this year, the San Francisco 49ers. I have them at 13-4. Got the Rams at 10-7, Seattle 8-9, Arizona 6-11. I think Arizona will win some games offensively. Their defense is atrocious. They're gonna give up a ton of points, so they're gonna have to score a lot. Seattle. I don't know what to expect out of that, out of the new coaching staff and stuff there. Geno Smith, we'll see. I love the Niners. I got the Niners sneak peek winning the whole thing, finally getting back on track this year after, a couple disappointments over the past couple of years. Kyle, where do you got this division at?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the 49ers are the far and away favorite. There's no doubt about it. I think the Niners have the best coach in the NFL, Kyle Shanahan. I think they have the best running back in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey. I think they have the serviceable quarterback who can play in the system very well, and I like their receiving core and their tight end. I think the Niners are clearly the favorite in this division. I have the Rams in second. The only thing I disagree with you is I think actually the Cardinals went up with a better record than the Seahawks. I don't like the Seahawks getting a new coach. I think the coaching staff had a lot to do with the success of Geno Smith. I think he does take a step back this year. Not like he was playing amazing to begin with, but I do think he's going to take a little bit of a step back. I think the Cardinals with Kyler Murray are actually a pretty dangerous team. Now, like you said, Sean, obviously their defense is not great, but they also were on the field last year a lot. So even though they're not a very good defense, they won't have to be on the field 24/7. I think the Cardinals are one of those teams we were talking about, like with the Jaguars. That's a sneaky team. I think there's going to be trap games. If you guys remember, I know the Eagles kind of fell apart a little bit at the end of last year, but the Cardinals beat the Eagles late in the season last year. That was after Kyler Murray returned. I think James Conner still has a little bit left in the tank, and if he gets hurt, you got Trey Benson there. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, Michael Wilson. But, I mean, ultimately this division is the 49ers to lose, and it's the rest of these teams are just living in it.
Brando?
I love the Niners winning this division. I agree with Sean. I think they win 13. I also like the Rams to be in the playoffs as well, the double-digit wins. I am interested to see what happens with Seattle. I think Seattle finishes better than Arizona. I like Arizona's offense. I agree with you, Sean. They're, almost historically bad on defense last season. I love the hire of Ryan Grubb in Seattle. He coached Michael Penix last year, guys. He's going to coach Geno Smith. They're very different players, but I thought of all the coaches made out of college this year, the NFL, I thought Grubb was the best one. And Dan Quinn's going to do what he's going to do. I mean, like,
Mike McDonald.
no, I'm thinking Sarah,
Mike
Washington.
McDonald.
But yeah, I do. I love the hiring of Grubb, and I think
Well, you're not
Seattle's
including,
I think Seattle's.
Harbaugh, right?
What's it?
You're not including. You said all the coaches get hired out of college. Or you think he's better than Harbaugh?
No, I'm thinking more like coordinators, not like between Kingsbury and Grubb. But like, I think that Seattle's offensive talent is still enough to be a better team than Arizona's. I love Marvin Harrison. I do. Kyler Murray concerns me with injuries, obviously, guys. But DK Metcalf, Smith-Njigba, Tyler Lockett, Walker, it's an offense that I do like. There's a lot of pieces there. Their offensive line was almost entirely injured last season. And the season before that, they played pretty damn well. So if some of those guys come back and stay at full strength, I like Seattle to finish third in this division. I don't think Seattle or Arizona come anywhere near playoffs. So the Rams and the Niners are clearly the best two teams in this division.
I got Seattle as the second best team in this division. I think their over under is 8.5 for the season, and I really like the over on that. I mean, I think the over is pretty easy for them. Mike McDonald, like you mentioned, Brandon, he's going to be a hell of a head coach for them. People kind of forget they got really awesome defensive pieces. They've been drafting very well.
Two all pros.
Yeah. And I mean, they drafted Witherspoon. They drafted Byron Murphy. Who's the
Murphy.
Who's the defensive
Murphy.
tackle they drafted this
Yeah,
year?
Murphy.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy Jr.
Byron
yeah.
Murphy, yeah.
That's what I thought, yeah. So, I mean, like, their defense is really, really solid. I think that, again, that's an identity change for that team. Mike McDonald is going to want to control the ball. I think Kenneth Walker is maybe the most slept-on running back in the NFL. I think that he's going to get a ton of carries this year, and I think he's going to do a lot with them. So I like the Seahawks. I really do. And like you said, Brandon, their offensive line should improve. But I like them at 9-8. I don't see a second playoff team out of this division. I got the Rams at 9-8 too. I mean, it's close to that 10-7. But and they have a great head coach, obviously, in Sean McVay. But losing Raheem Morris to be their defensive coordinator, that hurts them a ton. That hurts them a ton.
They lost somebody else.
Losing Aaron Donald, the best, maybe one of the best defensive tackle of all time, that hurts them a ton too. You know, and then you got Stafford. If Stafford goes down, which guys it can be just as likely as not, right? Then that offense just tanks because you're looking at Stetson Bennett and I like Stetson Bennett, and I like McVay to get enough out of him, but I don't see that making them a playoff team.
Yeah, let me say up front, when I made these predictions for all these teams, I just look at the teams as if they stay healthy all year. Like I said, we could talk about how Joe Burrow has a banged up wrist.
But you have to account for that possibility because Stafford has that history. You know, like that's something I can't help but think about and account for.
I mean, his vertebrae is one hit away from snapping.
He's also got a history of playing through injuries, though.
And on top of the fact that he's not a young guy like Joe Burrow, he is a fucking seasoned vet.
And you guys are talking about how much you like the Seahawks offense with DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigma, Kenneth Walker. I mean, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Kyron Williams are no scrubs either, guys. I mean,
no, I'm not. Like I said, I got the Seahawks at 9-8. I got the Rams at 9-8. I'm not saying that they're going to be losing teams. I'm just saying that the Rams are going to take a step back from the success they had last year. In my mind, based on the losses that they've accrued over this offseason, those are some big losses for them.
I love the Rams draft, man. I absolutely love that draft. I think
I think Fisk is overrated. I think Fisk is overrated, but Jared Verse was a hell of a pick for them, for sure. I mean, they made some good moves, but they can't replace what they lost.
Yeah, Braden Fisk is no Aaron Donald. I don't think any player in the NFL is an Aaron Donald.
I don't think Braden Fisk is even a serviceable tackle in the league in 3 years. That's how I think of Braden Fisk. I think he was very overrated coming out of the draft, and I'm just not a fan. So, and the Cardinals, Kyler Murray's going to tear it up, guys, but they'll be fine.
The the desert.
Yeah, they'll be 5-12. I mean, they got some work to do. Another guy who they have a good coach over there in Gannon, but it's just that's still going to take some time. With just added, they'll be better, but I don't see them winning more than 6 games.
Obviously, it's good that it wouldn't be a good show if we all agree with each other. But I do not like I don't like the coaching change. I don't know exactly what happened there. I think Pete Carroll kind of retired. I mean, or took a position in the front office, but I don't like.
He obviously didn't want to go. He accepted it graciously, but but Mike McDonald is a good defensive coach though.
And really quick, just before we move on to the next division, I just don't. For me, Seattle, the middle of their schedule: Detroit, San Francisco, Buffalo, Rams at San Francisco, Jets. That's what worries me. Then they get Green Bay after that.
I've actually got Seattle. I've got Seattle 2-4 in the division.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Let's head on down south to the NFC South really quick and take a look. I got Atlanta at 11-5, Tampa 9-8, Carolina 6-11, and the Saints the dumpster fire. And for me, I think that Dennis Allen might be one of the first coaches on the hot seat and possibly fired. The team is older. Derek Carr sucks. Kamara's efficiency went down by 1 yard across the board. Chris Olave is about all they got. I mean, their defense was really well and really stout and in the top 10 in most categories last year. But I'm going to tell you this right now. When you're on the field all the time because your offense sucks, that's going to weigh on your defense. I don't like anything about the Saints. Anything at all. I like Atlanta. I like them retooled. But that's where I got. Go ahead, Dustin. Take it away.
You said let's take a look at the NFC South. I'll just say don't look too long because you might go blind. They're not. It's not a good division. It's going to be the worst division in football. I mean, it's the AFC South is a little better because I think they have a couple of potential playoff teams in there, but the NFC South is just trash, guys. I mean, I don't see that division winning over 30 games combined. That's the way I've got this predicted. I think I got 27 total wins combined. You talked about the Saints for a while there, so I'll just say I thought the Dennis Allen hire was awful when they did it. He was awful in Denver. He's just not a good head coach. I don't know how this guy keeps getting jobs and Vrabel's unemployed. That makes no sense. That makes no sense to me. So yeah, I got the Saints at 6-11. I mean, their defense is good enough to carry them. I'm a little higher on Kamara than you are. I think he's going to take a step up this year, but in general, not very high on their passing game. Not very high on Derek Carr, and I'm not a fan of their head coach. The Panthers, I think Bryce Young gets better this year. I think they did a lot to add weapons to help him, but I don't know that translates to wins for them this year. I see them at 5-12. I think they're going to offensively take a step forward, but their defense is still bad, and they just traded away their best defensive player, guys. So they're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of games. I don't have them as the second worst team in the NFL, though. I think the Titans and the Raiders are sharing that mark. So Panthers making a little bit of improvement.
I agree.
Bucks 8-9, Falcons 8-9. The Falcons.
Falcons 8-9.
I got the Falcons at 8-9, winning the division. The division winner for the NFC South is going to have a losing record.
Okay.
That's what I have. Because the Falcons, I mean, I don't trust. I don't trust their management. I like Raheem Morris. I think he's going to make some changes for that team. But can you trust Kirk Cousins to stay healthy coming off of an ACL? Can you trust Michael Penix to step into that offense, given that they didn't even give him any real run in the preseason? There's some question marks with them. They obviously have the offensive skill players to blow up, but I mean I think they win this division, but I think they're a playoff loss. They're going to host a wild card game from an 8-9 record, and they're going to lose in the playoffs. That's the Falcons to me, and the Bucks are right there with them.
Kyle,
let's show some of this chat, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Falcons are a little bit better than Dustin's giving credit for. I think the Falcons will actually end up having 9 or 10 wins. I think the Falcons are the best team in that division. I think Tampa Bay is right behind them. I think both teams are decent teams, but not great. They're both going to have plenty of competitive games, but probably end up on the short end of the stick most times. The Panthers, to me, are still the last place team in this division. And you know what? I'm not a huge fan of Bryce Young. I think you guys know that already. But that's not even the reason why. I think the Panthers have the worst ownership and management of any team in the NFL. I think last year when they hired Frank Reich, he told them to draft C.J. Stroud. They drafted Bryce Young. They lost a bunch of games. They blamed it on Frank Reich, fired him. Not even to say he's a great coach, but he was
a terrible coach.
He made it public, clear, and obvious that he wanted C.J. Stroud. That was the right pick. They made the wrong pick. He got blamed for it. He got fired. I mean, I just think that the Panthers in general, I don't know if you guys ever read into the storylines about the Panthers owner and what he does outside of football.
Tepper is an ass.
Some of the stuff he does outside of football. The guy's a scumbag. I don't think he should. I think he's the next guy to be like the Washington Commanders owner, kind of almost kicked out of the NFL. I don't think he's a lot of people in the NFL are a big fan of his. I think that whole organization is a dumpster fire. And I think ultimately they will finish last in that division. I think for the most part, we're all pretty much the same here, guys. I think the Falcons are number 1. Tampa's number 2. I think the Saints at number 3 and Carolina at last. Brandon?
What you got, Brandon?
I am not on the same page as you guys. Well, first off, I want to say, and it's too bad I'll wait till Dustin comes back. Because he said something, the second last team is the Raiders and Titans. The Giants are an egregiously bad football team and are the second of last team.
We aren't on the NFC East yet, man.
We'll get to the NFC East. Wrap up the stuff.
I think the Buccaneers win this division again. I think I agree with Dustin.
I'm close with that.
I have the Falcons somewhere around 8-9. I think the Buccaneers are actually able to win 9 with a winning record. I think there's something that goes very much under the radar is the kid that played across from Rome Odunze in Washington. Jalen McMillan was drafted to this Buccaneers team, and to add that to Mike Evans and Godwin is just outrageous. I mean, that
really wasn't a position.
What's that?
Really wasn't a position of need. I mean,
but he's a really talented player. I think he's going to make a major impact in his rookie season too. But I have Tampa Bay winning this division. I do have the Panthers finishing last, guys, but I agree with you. I think they took a step forward. I love the head coach hiring the Panthers made. Canales, I think that the Bryce Young gets a little bit better for sure. They did add some talent at wide receiver. His offensive line is still questionable at best. I have the Falcons finishing second place. I do have the Saints finishing third, Sean, as much as you As much as you hate them, I still think they win enough games to be better than the Carolina Panthers. I agree with Dustin as well. I think Kamara, he's regressed over the last 3 years, but I think this year he comes in healthy, and I think he has an impact in both the running and the passing game for the Saints. And I think the Saints, as much as you guys are both correct, he's not the future head coach of that team, but I do believe they might have found themselves their future quarterback late in this year's draft, and Spencer Rattler. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I like Tampa Bay. I like Tampa Bay to win the division again. I like the Falcons to finish second. I don't think the Falcons' defense has improved because they made last-minute signings or trades in Judon and signed Simmons. I don't love that. It says desperation to me. And yeah, I got Panthers last, Saints third.
Just on the way out, Atlanta's two toughest games at home versus Kansas City and Dallas. Everyone else in that schedule is interdivision and cupcakes. Moving on to the NFC East. This is going to be the fun one. I got the Philadelphia Eagles at 12-5, the Cowboys at 11-6, the New York Football Giants 6-11. Probably a little bit too high on them. Washington 5-11. I went with the Eagles. The schedules are very similar, but no team in the NFC East has repeated since 2004. Has won that division back to back since 2004. I'm going to think that continues. I'm going to take the Eagles here to win this division. I'm not big on the Eagles. I'm not big on the Cowboys. Not enough time right now to get into all that, but that's where I am. Kyle, go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah, I have the Eagles coming back to form from where they were 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs and lost by 3 points. I think the Eagles are going to be a very good team this year. I think the roster is very good. They had an absolutely amazing draft, maybe the best draft of any team in the NFL this year. They always do. I mean, that team constantly.
Cooper DeJean, they drafted multiple defensive backs. They're
really two of the best, probably the two best secondary players in the draft. They somehow both fell to the Eagles. Mm-hmm. I think that Jalen Hurts is a serviceable quarterback, more of a system quarterback than a guy who makes everybody around him better, but it's a very good system. I think they obviously added Jahan Dotson. They already have A.J. Brown. They already have Devonta Smith. They added Saquon Barkley in the offseason. I mean, that team is even without Kelsey, they're still one of the best offensive lines in the NFL from left to right. I would like to have picked the Cowboys to win the division. The problem with me for the Cowboys and personally is just the fact that it was the most stagnant, uneventful offseason of any team I've ever seen in NFL history. They did absolutely nothing in the offseason, excluding maybe signing Ezekiel Elliott. I think the Cowboys are in salary cap hell. All those people who say, spend a bunch of money in the offensive line, the Cowboys have proven that doesn't always work, man. They've had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL for the last 10 years, and it's gotten them nothing, absolutely nothing. I think the Cowboys are still a good team. I think they put up a lot of points. I think Dak will still get his 4,500 yards, and CeeDee Lamb will get his 1,700 yards receiving. But the Cowboys are probably going to take a backseat to the Eagles. And then after that, I got the Giants finishing last. I actually have the Commanders finishing a game better than the Giants. I don't like Daniel Jones at all. I think that was a terrible decision by the Giants. I also don't place any of the blame on Brian Daboll. I think he's a better coach than people give him credit for. But I agree with Burton in that team. The only thing I like about that team right now is Malik Neighbors. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, that's a lot to like.
Quick prop bet. Bet on Malik Neighbors to score. No one in Minnesota is going to be able to stop him in week 1.
Got him on 2 of my fantasy teams. I'm ready for him to go off.
Go ahead, boys. We got about 15 minutes.
Listen, man, I got the Eagles at 12-5. I agree with that 100%. I think the Eagles have vastly improved. I think Sirianni's in for some retribution after getting his name dragged through the dirt for a whole year, basically. I think him and Hurts are going to get on the same page, and they're going to make this damn thing work. The biggest thing for me with the Eagles is they hired Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator. Last year, they had 2 defensive coordinators during the season, and they were both awful. Matt Patricia was not even. Matt Patricia went from the offensive coordinator to the defensive coordinator. I mean, they just had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. I think they solidified that, and they've made some good additions. With the Cowboys, they didn't make any moves, but at the same time, I don't think they felt like they had to make any moves. I got them at 10-7. I got them in the playoffs as the 5th seed, I believe. But I mean, or the 6th seed, sorry. But I mean, their offense is still going to be really damn good, and their defense is still solid too.
I have them in the playoffs too.
Yeah, well, we want to. I think it's hard not to be high on them, given that they have the best receiver in the NFL on their team. The Cowboys are gonna be decent, but then, like you guys said, after that, I got Washington and the Giants at 6-11. I got them with the same record. I like Washington to get better. I like Dan Quinn. I like the hire. I think they're going to play a lot harder on defense, and I'm excited to watch Jaden Daniels play some football and throw that ball to Terry McLaurin. So Washington will be fun, and like we all said, Malik Neighbors, that guy's going to be a stud this year. Right off, I like him better than Marvin Harrison Jr. He will have better stats than Marvin.
I have
Harrison.
a strong feeling Malik Neighbors is thinking, "Get me the hell out of here already!" In the season.
No, he's thinking, "Get me the damn ball, Kyle."
Yeah,
and that's not going to happen. And that's not going to happen because Daniel Jones is throwing it, and he's going to be like, "Get me the hell out of here," so I can make.
What you got, Brando, in the NFC?
Yeah, I like the Eagles to win this division. I thought the Eagles fixed their biggest problems over the offseason. I thought their draft was probably my favorite in the NFL. They went right off the bat with 2 defensive backs that they desperately needed in Quinyon Mitchell, and they took, as everybody knows, Cooper DeJean. 2 players who I believe are major impact players. They also drafted a guy who I compare. I mean, if you watch him, man, from Texas A&M, he's very similar to Devin Hester type players. His name is Aeneas Smith. He's a wide receiver. He'll do the majority of the return work. Then they drafted Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. He's a 6'7" wide receiver. He can obviously play tight end. He'll be in the red zone a lot when he is on the field. I love their draft top to bottom. I do see the Dallas Cowboys finishing second in the division. I still think the Dallas Cowboys are a good team. They're a playoff team. I think the Washington Commanders with Dan Quinn, here we go. Now we're on the right coach. Dan Quinn, a head coach, are good enough to win at least 5 or 6 games. And I have the Giants being an implosion at best. I disagree with you, Kyle. I'm sorry. Brian Dable is one of the worst head coaches in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. Robert Saleh.
But he lost a lot of weight, Randall.
Brian Dable and Doug Peterson are the 3 coaches. Saleh, Dable, Peterson are 3 coaches I see absolutely being terminated after this season's over. Maybe Robert, he might stick around because the Jets finally have some health on their side. We'll see.
I don't think it's fair to evaluate a coach who's had no talent on the roster.
I like Dable a lot.
I like Dable too.
I mean,
Dable was absolutely a part of giving Daniel Jones over $100 million. He was a part of that decision. That was a terrible decision. He will sink with that ship, and he deserves to. And Malik Neighbors will get involved. He'll be an impact player on that offense for sure. The Giants are going to finish with possibly 2 wins. That's my prediction for the Giants. I have the Commanders being 5-6 win team. I think the Cowboys are definitely probably a 10-win team in the playoffs. And the Eagles, I think, take a giant leap forward. I know they lost. They added Saquon Barkley. They did lose a couple of players, but they've done nothing but replace them. And the draft they had, to me, guys, is the best draft in the NFL. The Steelers and the Eagles always seem to do this every year. They're taking a guy in the 5th round where you're thinking, I would have taken that guy in the 3rd round. You know what I mean? So
the Eagles had a really good draft.
Constantly steal draft picks. It feels like.
Regardless of the intangibles, guys, I'd say that this division is the one we agree on the most.
No, we don't.
No, yeah, we were 100% down the board the same.
Eagles, Cowboys. Sean, you just had the Commanders and Giants flip, but it was pretty close, right?
Here, I'll just say this on the Giants.
I'm just going to change it to the Cowboys winning the division.
They were 6-11 last year. I don't think they got worse, and their schedule's pretty powder puff.
They lost Saquon Barkley. They got worse.
Well, there's that.
They made it up for.
They lost the guy who was 51% of the offense.
The problem I have with that, and the problem I have with Brennan saying,
guys, we got 15 minutes to get to the NFC
we got
North.
15 minutes, and really quick, I wouldn't always count on those rookie safeties. They take a couple of years in the NFL to develop.
Not giving Dable an offensive line. That's where the Giants.
All right, let's roll into the NFC North because we are pressed for time. So let's start.
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Let's go.
All right, and as we roll into this NFC North, I got the Lions, obviously the class of the division. I got the Bears and Packers tied at 10-7, and Minnesota somehow winning 5 games, probably off the feet of Justin Jefferson. I honestly think Minnesota is going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL if Sam Darnold is under center, which looks like he will be for the entire year. I know you guys don't agree with it. They're just not, to me, not a good football team at all. They're not going to be even close in this division. They're going to be a doormat, thank God, because I hate Minnesota more than I hate Green Bay. I hear a lot of people taking Green Bay to the Super Bowl and all this other crap. They say it every year. Just not look, I know everyone. Jordan Love was great last year. He needs to prove it a little bit more to me. And I think the Bears take a step forward. Our first 10 games are pretty easy. Back half of the schedule gets a little bit tougher. I got the Bears 10-7. I got 3 teams from the NFC North in the playoffs, though. Kyle?
Yeah, I think it's the Lions' division to lose for sure. I think the Lions were a very good team last year. I think they only got better. They made some very good free agency off season additions. You got Jameer Gibbs coming into his second year. I think Jamison Williams will ultimately get better. I'm not saying he's going to be the guy they drafted him to be, but I think he will actually improve a little bit this year. And I think right now the Packers and Bears are just a step behind them, man. They're just a year behind them. I think the Bears improved the most of any team in the NFL, and I'm not saying that as a Bears fan. I'm saying that because they got the number one pick in the draft and added Caleb Williams. And on top of that, added Roman Dunze and Keenan Allen in the offseason. I mean, and I've actually got the Lions winning division. Green Bay one game ahead of the Bears with 11 wins. The Bears 10-7. And I agree with you, Sean. I think Minnesota, outside of the Patriots, I believe Minnesota is going to have the worst quarterback play in the NFL. And I believe they will finish with 2, 3, 4 wins somewhere in there.
That was generous. Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I don't want to be boring and just say the same record that Kyle just said. I mean, I'll say this. With the Lions, I really went back and forth on whether or not I thought they would be the best record in the NFC. That team was good last year, and they improved this year. They added DJ Reader to pair with McNeil in the middle there. Yeah. They added the cornerback to help shore up their back end, which was probably their biggest issue last year. And I mean, Jameer Gibbs is in for a breakout season, and they have the best offensive line in football. Yeah. Every team we've talked about that has been in the cellar, they have a terrible offensive line. So I like teams with really good offensive lines. That's why I like the Eagles, because those guys are massive and they move people. And that's what's going to propel the Lions to the number one seed in the NFC North this year and the second seed in the NFC. Bears, I want to focus on that. I've gone back and forth, vacillated between 11-6, 10-7, and that is really just on the weakness of their schedule, guys. I'm trying to keep perspective here because it's tough for teams to go from, especially in this division with the two playoff teams from last year in the Lions and the Packers, to go from, bottom of the division to the top, So I do have them third in that division as well, but their schedule is just way too easy for them to not win 10 games. I see them at 10-7. I got the Packers at 11-6. I think the Packers are a year ahead of the Bears in terms of their progress. You just look at where Jordan Love is in his career versus where Caleb is. Caleb's a rookie coming into the league. Rookies throw interceptions, guys. Interceptions lose games. So that's what we got to keep in mind as Bears fans, right? Like Caleb is going to turn the ball over as he's learning. We want him to get those reps and learn so that we can establish him in the league, but it's going to be some growing pains this year. But even with that, their record, their schedule makes their record, I think, 10-7, and I got the Vikings at 3-14. I love their coaches, I really do. I think that they're. It just seems like too many things are working against the Vikings already, guys. Like the injuries, and it's just in the division is just so tough. Vikings, one of the worst teams in the league. I'm with you on.
I agree.
Brando?
I like Green Bay winning the division. I like Green Bay beating the Eagles in Brazil to kick off the season on Friday night. I don't think it's by a wide margin. I love the Lions as well. I just think Green Bay's spread offense is tough to deal with. They're the youngest, I think, offensive roster in the NFL, and they already made the playoffs last year and won a game and hammered a team. They're coached really well. I don't see. I'm not saying, guys. I'm not taking anything away from the Lions. And the Green Bay actually has the fourth hardest schedule. Which, by the way, we didn't say the Giants have the sixth hardest schedule in football, guys. Let me add that too to my why they suck. But the Packers have the fourth hardest schedule in football. But I still think they finish with one of the easier. Their last 4 weeks of the NFL is one of the easier schedules. But I do like Green Bay to win the division. I like Detroit to be one game behind, maybe even a tie with Green Bay winning a split. But the one place I have the Bears finishing third, which I think pretty much anybody who's going to project this division is going to probably see it that way. The Bears are third place because both teams, the Lions and Packers, are ahead of the Bears. But the one place I disagree is the Vikings. The Vikings, I see winning 5 or 6 games at least, maybe 7. The reason I say this is because I love the coach of the Vikings, O'Connell. I think he's going to coach that off. He's going to put whoever's playing quarterback is going to be in a position. He won games with Josh.
What's their division record, Brandon? What's their division record? Because you have to start there to get them to 7 wins.
Probably 2-4.
So who are their 2 wins against?
What?
So who are their 2 wins against?
I think that Brian Flores could wreck Caleb Williams.
So
Absolutely. I think that's very big possibility, and I think they could beat the Packers as well. I don't know. They could beat. I think to me, I just see that Vikings team between Dallas Turner and Greenard, who they added on the end. They're going to wreak havoc on offensive lines that can't prepare for them. The Bears are probably going to lose that game to the Vikings. They bring the blitz. They have quality rushers up front. They have 4 quality guys up front. Their defense is pretty good, guys, and they have an offensive coach that I see as top probably 3 in the NFL. I don't care who's playing quarterback. To me, it's kind of like the Niners, where if you plug in somebody who you can exploit strengths, you've got a lot of talent. Justin Jefferson's going to be Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones is who he is. Jordan Addison was the best rookie receiver in the NFL last year, even over Zay Flowers. He was the best rookie receiver in the NFL last year, without a doubt, over Smith and Jigba, over Quentin Johnston. So I think this team still, Hawkinson looks like he's coming back week 5 or 6, still has a lot of talent on this offense.
They could be 0-5 by then, bro. Like it's just there's just too much stacking. I'm
I think the
agreement with
NFC
you.
North is the second best division besides the AFC North because the Vikings as well. I don't exclude the Vikings when I make that team the second best division in football. I
Sam
think the
Darnold
Vikings-
might exclude.
I think the
them.
Vikings are going to play anybody they play. I think the Vikings are going to play anybody they play extremely tough. You're not going to get an easy win out of the Vikings.
Either way, it's
Brian
not.
Flores is going to. You guys got to think. We are playing the same division. The Bears are playing the same divisions as the Vikings. When the Vikings play guys like Bryce Young, when they play C.J. Stroud, when they play guys like these, when they play Anthony Richardson, Brian Flores is going to wreak havoc over young QBs with inexperience. He is the last offensive coordinator that you want to see. And if you throw guys like Dallas Turner and Greenard in that same scheme where he can blitz you, but also just bring pressure from up front, I think this Vikings defense is really what separates the wins for me. I think they end up winning. I'm going to say 6 wins for the Vikings.
Regardless if it's 3 wins or 5 wins, they're certainly not worth talking about on the 4-star scale. They're not
They're
going
on
to
the
be.
they're on the bottom of that division, that's for sure.
Hey,
They're on the-
really,
I guess
It's
I
obviously
shouldn't
worth
have
talking
mentioned
about.
them.
The Bears are
I
going to
guess
play them
next time
twice,
I'll
and
just
that's exactly what we're
I'll just
talking
list
about.
my top 3 teams and not mention my team that's in.
Oh, yeah, I mean-
Hey, really quick before we got to wrap it up here. We don't have time for the top 7, but final 4. I got the Jets over the Chiefs, Niners over Detroit, Niners over the Jets. Niners get it done, run it back after not being able to get it done the last couple times they've been in there. Go ahead, Dustin. Who'd you got?
Let me start with a surprising one. I got Cincy winning over KC, getting to the AFC Championship to play Baltimore, a divisional AFC Championship, and I got Cincy beating Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl. In the NFC, I got San Francisco versus Green Bay, a rematch from last year's playoffs. I got San Francisco winning that, and I got Detroit losing to Philly, to where Philly is now going to end up in the NFC Championship game playing San Fran. San Fran beats them, gets to the Super Bowl, takes out Cincinnati. San Fran, Cincy, Super Bowl. San Fran takes it all.
Brando?
I love the NFC Championship game. I love and I think the Eagles might take such a large step. I don't know that's such a hard game for me, guys. I could see either Eagles or the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and I think it's the Chiefs without a doubt. The Chiefs are going to finish with probably a top 3 defense in the NFL.
That's the easiest pick
and
to
they
make
have
for sure.
they have the quarterback, right?
They did lose the second best defensive player in their team, man. The Snead is that's no laughing matter.
Yeah, but who's the other kid in the secondary, man? Who's the Mick something?
Oh, he's really good too. Oh man, his name slips my
McDuffie?
mind.
Out of Washington.
McDuffie?
Yeah, Trent McDuffie.
Oh,
there you
good.
go.
I mean,
Outrageous, dude. That kid is a stud.
for me personally,
So much so that we don't know his name.
I just don't watch a lot of Chiefs football, man.
All right, Kyle, who you got, man?
not to be conspiracy theorist, but for me personally, I think the Chiefs are no longer the NFL's darling this season. I think the whole Taylor Swift thing has kind of run its course. I think the Chiefs will get called for offensive holding at some point in the playoffs this year and will not make it to the Super Bowl. I think the Bengals will ultimately end up being representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. I actually think the AFC championship game is going to be Bengals-Texans. Bengals beat the Texans, go to the Super Bowl. I have the same championship game as Dustin. I think the Eagles and Niners will go to the championship game in the NFC, and ultimately the Niners will beat the Eagles to move on to the Super Bowl, and I think the 49ers will win the Super Bowl.
Well, I didn't say this. I think the Chiefs beat the Ravens.
Jesus, how do we get so close on these freaking picks, Kyle?
I mean, the Chiefs beat the
You're like-
Ravens.
It's like you're reading over
I
my
like
notes.
I like the Eagles a lot more than you guys do, man. a lot.
I got the Eagles in the NFC Championship game.
No, I know, but when you were talking about the Eagles, you were saying that you get like 12-5. I think the Eagles could end up with the best record in the
So
NFC.
you got the Eagles
Chiefs
as the number 1 seed in the NFC?
I like the Chiefs beating their Ravens.
The Eagles and Niners, yes. I think it could come down to the same record and a tiebreaker.
So really quick, let's go around. We have Thursday, Friday. Then we're gonna give everyone this awesome Bears hype video as we wrap it up. Thursday, Chiefs across the board. Chiefs beat the Ravens. Everybody.
No, where is it in Kansas City?
Yeah, it's in Kansas City. They get to lower their banner and do all that.
I got
KC.
I'm going to take the Ravens.
I got KC.
Ravens, KC, Brando.
I don't think the Chiefs lose 2 home openers in a row like they did the Lions. I say the Chiefs.
Packers, Eagles. Brando, you already said you got the Packers winning that game.
I have the Packers. I have the Packers finally kind of surprising, smacking people in the face. In
Kyle,
Eagles.
Dustin.
I got the Eagles.
I got the Eagles as well.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a little press for time here, but we love
Who we
y'all.
got in the Bears game, guys?
And well, I think we're all taking the Bears to beat the Titans. I don't think we have to really put that out there.
I think
I'm going to take them to cover the 4.5.
Yeah, and you guys come check us out on CSP, Chicago Sports Podcast. We'll talk to you guys before the Bears game. We'll give you guys our Bears prediction. This is not the end before this. Will not be the last time you talk to us before the Bears.
Right after this, we're going to interview David Kaplan.
David Kaplan on Chicago Sports Podcast. Yep. Dustin and Brando are about to be on there. Go check them out, guys.
And real quick, guys, Tuesday nights, starting Tuesday nights, guys, every week, 6 o'clock. I am on with David on Bears Ski Film to give you a fantasy breakdown for the week.
All right. But right now, come check us out. 8 o'clock, CSP.
Thank you, Sean, Silver Steel, everybody, Bruce. Thank you as always to everybody.
Thanks,
guys, hit the like button, subscribe. Have a great night. Happy Labor Day.
Hey guys, before you leave, check out this Bears hype video before you guys leave. Absolutely amazing. Take it easy, guys. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you guys soon.
On Wednesday.
Roll it.
Flip over to CSP. Check these guys out with Kaplan next.
Every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines on my face getting clearer. The past is gone. It went by like dust at dawn. Isn't that the way? Everybody's got their dues and lives to pay. Written pages, lived and learned from fools and from sages. You know it's true.